Please stand. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now am found, was blind, but now I see. Through many dangers, toils, and snares, I have already come. 'Tis grace hath brought me safe thus far, and grace will lead me home. Within there 10,000 years, bright shining as the sun, with no less days to sing God's praise than when we first begun.
You may be seated. Good afternoon, friends. My name is Reverend Zoe Hill. I'm a spiritual counselor and director of our clinical pastoral education department here at Caron. And I'd like to welcome you to Chit Chat Auditorium, where we remember and celebrate the life of our beloved Reverend Jack Abel. A few logistics before we start. Notably, please have your cell phones turned to silent. The service recording will be posted on YouTube and the Caron app at some point in the coming days. Please feel free to stay on campus for a reception in the McGlynn Dining Hall following the service. So, we are here in this place called Chit Chat Auditorium, where we have had the privilege to experience chapel services led by both Father Bill and Reverend Jack. I have always been amazed that this hall transforms to a place of celebration, remembrance, and sacredness, where lives have been transformed, and is one of the areas Jack loved to be the most. Hearing the stories of folk who rediscovered what it meant to truly live with a newfound freedom. As you can see, we have this space set up as it would be for Sunday chapel, because that is what Jack loved the most about Caron. Its commitment to spirituality and this weekly service that we would offer, which brought him as much joy as it did those who celebrated here with us. It brings both sadness that Jack has now left this plane of existence, joining the ranks of angels and loved ones who have gone before us, but also gratitude for the lives touched by his very presence in this space. You will hear stories today about who Jack was to staff, alumni, and to many friends of Caron. I had the privilege of serving on the spiritual care team with Jack for the past 12 years. Jack's influence in the spiritual care team was that of a leader, colleague, and friend. He was a mentor who had a love for learning, creating a space to share teachings, wisdom, and readings throughout the department. One of those readings will be shared a little later in this service. It's important to know that Jack was not just a boss to us, but each one of us considered Jack to be a friend. He was a strong advocate and ally for each one of us and was eager to collaborate or give us ideas when we may have needed them. He valued us not only as employees, but the sometimes complex individuals that he knew each of us to be. It was clear that Jack was as invested in each of us as individuals, not only wanting to see us grow professionally, but also encouraging us in whatever journeys we may have been experiencing in our lives and supporting us all the way. I remember when I ran my first marathon at Rehoboth Beach back in 2017, Jack was eagerly cheering me on, following my journey, and actually got worried when I didn't post that I'd actually completed the marathon. I was too wiped out at that point. He actually nervously texted me, like, "Are you done? Are you okay?" Fun times. But there are also other memories. Not only did we learn from him, but he also learned from us. Going through his office, we found things that we had suggested to him that were meaningful in other spiritual traditions. And I could see from that the influence we as spiritual care colleagues had on him just as much as the influence he had on us. We will sincerely miss our mentor, colleague, and dear friend. But when walking into Chit Chat Auditorium, and especially seeing it to be transformed into the chapel that Jack loved, Jack's memory and presence will always be here within these walls and the spiritual legacy at Caron.
Blessings, everyone. My name is Reverend Christina Skornavaki, and I have the privilege and honor to be on the spiritual counselor here at Caron. Here is an adapted version of the Wesley Covenant prayer that Reverend Jack would pray every morning. I am no longer my own, but yours. Put me to what you will. Rank me with whom you will. Put me to doing. Put me to suffering. Let me be employed by you or laid aside for you. Exalted for you or brought low for you. Let me be full. Let me be empty. Let me have all things. Let me have nothing. I freely and heartily yield all things to your pleasure and disposable. And now, O glorious and blessed God, you are mine, and I am yours. So be it. And this covenant which I made on earth, let it be ratified in heaven. Amen.
Hello. My name is Kate Appelman. I'm the Executive Vice President of Caron, Pennsylvania. And I first want to start by thanking everyone who made today possible. There's a lot of behind the scenes pieces, and there's a group of us that have different skill sets, and I see you out there, and I just want to thank you for making this so special. I want to thank Judy and welcome her and her family. here today. It's been an honor getting to know you over the past couple of months. I'm sorry it's under the circumstances we've had. It's great to have you here. And I want to thank all of you for being here. When we think about the way that Jack had honored space for us, I think this is our opportunity to honor space for him. Recovery gives us the ability to lean into things that are truly important and that truly matter to us. And if you just take a minute and look around, just think about what we're doing here today. Just take a minute and look around. You're here to honor a man that matters and that has been there for you in countless ways over the years. This right here, what's happening right now, is a testament beyond words that reflects who Jack was to all of us. I had every intention of coming here with a few bullet points and winging it, because that's typically what I do, typical Jack style, because he very much did the same thing. But somebody told me I should probably put something down on paper, so I did do that to make sure that we really reflected who he is. I've known Jack for 15 years. He's been in Caron 15 years this year. And there's a lot of words we could use to describe Jack, right? Think of your own. To me, he was a confidant. He was somebody that was a comic relief. Just think of his laugh that not one person in here could mirror, right? He was a sounding board for me. He was a fierce advocate. He was an intellectual giant. Small story, Jack has about 150 books in his office that Zoe and Judy and I cleaned out. Judy called me and said, I have another 3 bookshelves, what do I do with them? And I didn't know what the answer was, so I said, just bring them up here, right? An intellectual giant, someone who loved learning and loved information and loved sharing it with other people. He could be described as passionate, sometimes equally stubborn for those of us that knew him well, unafraid to ask the question, not afraid to challenge the status quo, not afraid to say when something wasn't right. To us here, he was a spiritual leader, and to me, he was my friend. Here at Caron, we are a community that is steeped in spiritual connection that really goes back to our founders, Dick and Catherine Caron. They believed in recovery being a spiritual journey. And his presence on our campus held the torch for that. On any given day, you would see him in a treatment team meeting, advocating for a patient to stay longer by using the chapel fund, holding space for the suffering of our patients, sometimes the suffering of our staff, depending on the day. You would find him in his office with spiritual consults at his kneelers with patients. You would see him in front of a mirror in his office with a patient to help them really visualize what they wanted their recovery to look like. You would see him every week in this auditorium for music group, helping patients use music to really express who they were and what they were about. And you would see him here every Sunday, creating a space for us. And for anybody who has experienced chapel, you know exactly what I mean by that. I can't even put words to it. Jack did remind me a few months ago that while he missed many of us dearly, he did miss chapel the most. For almost 70 years, Caron has been a place where people transform their lives, where they get second, sometimes third and fourth and fifth and sixth chances, right? We know who we are. Where we find purpose, where we find ourselves, where we find who we are. Jack made people realize that they're a part of something special, that we're not alone and that we matter. That's what he did for us. He was an integral part in helping people find their path and influencing a community that creates space where people can change. In this room, we have staff, we have alumni, we have donors, we have board members, we have a lot of other people. And if you think about our community has one sole purpose, to help the person who's still sick and suffering. So no matter who you are, where you came from, what you're doing here today, that's the common purpose. We are that community, and each one of us is responsible for playing our part. Proverbs 27 verse 17 reads, "As iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another." This passage refers to the belief that people can shape and change one another, that being in the presence of a strong believer can help refine another person. Jack was a strong believer and a man of faith, and I can say without a doubt that knowing him has fundamentally changed me. I recently read one of Jack's reflections that he wrote for a memorial service. And he wrote, "As we are reminded that grief is a part of the journey of living, rather than a process that has a beginning, a middle, and an end, we must find a way to live in response to the losses that we experience, and our task is to somehow see this artfully, to make meaning of the life that we're privileged to find ourselves living." As we pause here today and reflect on why we're here and what this is about, and acknowledge how we have been deeply impacted by this beautiful human being, I hope we're reminded of a few things. I hope we're reminded to honor his legacy, to be responsible for carrying the torch, to be the iron that sharpens another, the community that embraces those that are still sick and suffering, creating a space for them to experience everything recovery has to offer. That's our job. No matter who you are or what seat you're in, that's our job. Jack passed us the torch. Some people come into our lives and they leave footprints in our hearts, and we are never, ever the same. Jack, thank you for sharing yourself with us for so many years.
My name's Todd Whitmer, and I'm a recovering alcoholic and drug addict. I've had a lot of titles here at Caron. My latest title is National Gifts Officer. That's a philanthropic mission that Jack really embodied as well as his music. And I'm a friend of Jack, so I want to thank Kate and Zoe and John for asking me to be part of this ceremony. So the promises of AA in the 9th step begin with, if we are painstaking with this phase of our development, we will be amazed when we are halfway through. We will find a new freedom and a new happiness. To me, that's Jack. A new freedom and a new happiness. Certainly the happiness and the joy of the romance and the marriage with Judy and Jack. Nothing like that. We've witnessed that happiness and joy. Judy. And the freedom to stand on the shoulders of Father Bill. So, we're in this auditorium now, but when Father Bill had his service, what I remember, in the villa, it was in a very small chapel with stained glass windows and looked like a real chapel, And so many people came to that Sunday service that we had to TV it into the living room of the villa. And it was packed. Every Sunday it was packed. And Father Bill had that magic touch. I remember one alumni that was there, and Father Bill said, "Hey friend, would you give us a song?" And this was a motorcycle jacket wearing, bearded, earring hanging, chain of keys on his side, and he belted out operatic a cappella, Ave Maria. And it was just a beautiful moment. And Craig, you personified how Jack grew and stood on the shoulders of music and the importance of music and the healing of music. So you touched me very much today, and this is a major aspect of Jack's promise to all of us, right? So I've known Jack from the time that he came to Caron, and especially through my 12-year tenure as the regional vice president of Caron, New York. Thank you, Doug Tiemann, for that honor. Best job ever. New York City. We're with us today. Max and Matt Butler and a bunch of them are screaming today. So I really got to know Jack there. And Jack loved New York and New York loved him back. And in 2012, we began streaming. Now think about Father Bill TVing the chapel service in the villa. We began streaming the chapel service to the conference room in New York Allie was there. 4 times a year, we had the chapel in New York, and we shared our testimonials and our anniversaries. And okay. So, okay, New York. Jack also provided the invocation for many of our Caron, New York galas, and he did it with such style and such grace. So very grateful for that. But most recently, I got to know Jack through the Neil Asher Music Fund. And the Neil Asher Music Fund is a fund that we began in 2020 to help anyone in the music world that needed Caron's treatment, needed financial aid for that treatment. But it also has an endowment fund that's part of the Neil Asher Fund. And that endowment fund, which is at $300,000 now, yes, is to permanently have a full-time music therapist here in Pennsylvania to take the next steps with what Jack has developed for music here. So there was nobody better in articulating what that was about, the healing power of music. We just felt it here right now, right? So I was really grateful to be partnering with Jack on that process, and we will take that forward. But he was just the person that could really eloquently make the case for that. So he loved and appreciated the healing power of music, and he also appreciated the healing power of philanthropy. Because what Father Bill had started the chapel fund in, I think, the 1980s, Reverend Jack really grew that fund. And last year, that fund, which is basically to help people either go to partial hospitalization or sober living after they leave here and need financial aid, that fund helped 60 Caron patients take the next step and over 100 months of sober living. So thank you all for, I know there's a lot of people that donated to that fund, and I know there's a lot of you here that are here because you know Jack and experienced Jack's healing touch, that way of being present with somebody, that way of knowing just the right, after he listened and listened, just the right mantra, just the right song, just the right book, just the right metaphor that helped them open the door. So as Kate said, our job is to stand on the shoulders of Reverend Jack and go forward with his mission. So let's do it. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm truly honored to speak here today in remembrance of Reverend Jack. Not long after his passing, the song Let It Be by the Beatles popped into my head out of nowhere. Immediately, I thought of Reverend Jack, so I played it. And the soothing words connected to me what I was feeling in the loss of our spiritual guide and our leader. And when the broken-hearted people living in the world agree, there will be an answer, let it be. For though they may be parted, there is still a chance that they will see. There will be an answer, let it be. We will miss you, Reverend Jack, and I'm comforted in knowing that you will see us. This is a reading from a daily devotional that Reverend Jack had found meaningful. He especially related to the connection to music and to the piano.
John and Adam. Keep me as the apple of your eye. Hide me in the shadow of your wings. Psalm 17:8. Have you ever walked through the church and counted the pianos? Chances are that in addition to the piano in the sanctuary and another in the choir room, you'll find donated pianos all over the place. In the social hall, and in the library, in the youth room, in the nursery, and at least one or two in the classroom wing, which is why I was standing beside a beautiful old grand piano when a mom came to retrieve her kids after the first day of Sunday school. She smiled and said hello as she entered the room, but her eyes were on the piano. "I can't believe it's still here," she said. Then she explained that she recognized this very piano from her own childhood, back in the days when the church held a faith formation program for children on Tuesday afternoons. When the earthquake hit, she told me the kids were still here, waiting for their parents to pick them up. As the earth started to shake and the walls began to sway, those kids and their teachers took shelter under that big piano. And because they had just learned a song to go with Psalm 17, they knew exactly what to sing as they sheltered there. Keep me as the apple of your eye. Hide me in the shadow of your wings. They sang until the ground stopped shaking. They sang until their parents arrived and scooped them up into trembling arms. And they never forgot those ancient words of comfort or the piano that held them safe. And if you don't know, that was the World Series earthquake back in the 93, I believe it was.
God of earth and sky, thank you for the ancient songs that tell of your abiding presence. Help us remember to pass your songs along to the ones who need them the most.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sherry Belkoff, and I am chair of the National Alumni Leadership Council. Today we gather to honor and celebrate the life of a remarkable man, Reverend Jack E. As an alumnus of Caron Treatment Centers, and on behalf of all alumni, I am deeply humbled to stand here and share a few words about someone who meant so much to so many. Reverend Jack wasn't just our spiritual leader, he was a beacon of light, a steadfast presence in the storm, and a voice of hope when many of us felt hopeless. He had an uncanny ability to see the goodness in everyone, even when we couldn't see it in ourselves. Jack was so authentic. He didn't just talk about recovery, he lived it. He embodied the 12 steps in every aspect of his life, showing all of us that these principles weren't just a path to sobriety, but a guide to living with purpose and integrity. He helped so many of us discover and connect with our higher power when we felt lost and isolated, meeting each of us where we were and gently guiding us towards hope, faith, and healing. For Reverend Jack, no one was ever too lost, too broken, or too far gone. He reminded us that recovery was not just about healing the body, but about nurturing the spirit and reclaiming the soul. Reverend Jack's unwavering belief in us gave us the courage to always believe in ourselves. Reverend Jack had a way of meeting each of us exactly where we were, whether that was in a moment of joy, sorrow, or struggle. His compassion had no boundaries, and his wisdom not only came from his intellectual pursuits, but came from a deep desire to know people and to love them. He was always there, offering a kind word, a knowing smile, or simply the silence we needed to feel understood. For many of us, Reverend Jack wasn't just a leader. He was a friend, a mentor, and a guide. He taught us to embrace our imperfections, to find strength in vulnerability, and to walk forward with faith, even when the path was uncertain. I would also like to mention that Reverend Jack was a gifted musician, as we all know, who led the chapel music program, encouraging musician patients to share their creativity with the Caron community as a therapeutic component of their treatment. He also played a key role in designing and launching Caron's clinical pastoral education, the CPE program, which trains chaplains in providing addiction-focused spiritual care. Reverend Jack's legacy lives on in every life he touched. In every bit of light he sparked in our hearts. As we grieve his loss, let us also celebrate the countless ways he made this world better. Let us all honor his memory by continuing to carry his lessons forward, by showing up for others as he showed up for us, by loving fiercely, and by never losing sight of the light, even in the darkest of times. Our hearts are filled with love for you, and we feel your absence every single day. Rest in peace, Reverend Jack. You were truly one of a kind, and your spirit will live on in all of us.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jim Hobbs. I am a spiritual care counselor here on the Caron treatment team, and I'm currently the interim chapel facilitator each Sunday here for Caron Chapel. I was trained by Jack. I was mentored by Jack. He was my counselor as well when I was in treatment here at Caron 7 years ago. So it's just an honor to be here with you today. Jack loved Joseph Campbell, so I've been given some quotes that Jack really enjoyed from Joseph Campbell. A hero is someone who has given his or her life to something bigger than oneself. Furthermore, we have not even to risk the adventure alone, for the heroes of all time have gone before us. The labyrinth is fully known. We have only to follow the thread of the hero path, and where we had thought to find an abomination, we shall find a God. Where we had thought to slay another, we shall slay ourselves. Where we had thought to travel outward, we shall come to the center of our own existence. Where we had thought to be alone, we shall be with all the world. We must be willing to let go of the life we planned so as to have the life that is waiting for us.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Dorothy Diamond, and I'm a clinical supervisor here at Caron. And I just want to say thank you in advance, because part of what I'd like to share today is actually a personal letter that I wrote for Jack. And apologize in advance because I may get emotional, so just please bear with me. Dear Jack, I felt convicted to say something today, and it only felt appropriate to do so in letter form. The reality is I have many a memory of standing up here in this spot, presenting various coins to brothers we have worked with, and being able to share that privileged space and honor with you. Last month when I presented a coin, your absence was dearly noted, and sadness felt as I looked out at some of my fellow anchors who also appreciated you, being Marty and John. You had stood up here with me in celebration, but also at times in heartache, which makes standing here in the midst of your loss all the more devastating. I had the honor of being a colleague of yours for many years, but the most precious were the past couple. The past couple years you served as spiritual counselor for the relapsed men's team, which meant you joined us for our group supervision, which was a great benefit to us. That was a special and sacred space that only those of us who were present will understand. You joined us and participated in conceptualizing cases, telling truths, admitting flaws, affirming strengths, crying, laughing, and when all else failed, praying. Your presence helped create that space for which I am forever grateful. There were times where you would express your respect to me as a leader, but the reality is anything I am as a leader today is a testament to individuals like you who I have looked up to and learned from. There are poignant memories I have of you showing up for me as a leader, colleague, and friend. Ironically, some of the most poignant involved grief and loss. One of those moments I had no idea what to do. And the only thing that gave me strength and courage to proceed forward was having you by my side. It was an opportunity for me to experience and observe how you do what you did so well. You created safe space, allowed for emotions such as grief to pass through, and provided guidance for us all. You showed your gifting as a spiritual leader and counselor in that moment, but also more importantly, your humanity. There were moments where your insight and intuition shined through because you knew the right moments to check in and simply ask how I was doing. You did so because that was just the type of man you were, the type who checked in, considered others, and offered your support, strength, empathy, and concern. Our mutual friend, Dr. Floor, commented after your passing that you were a man of immense compassion and curiosity. Seeing and experiencing your compassion and curiosity was of great benefit not only to me, but so many others. My first real good cry following your passing was when listening to a song by Zach Bryan called Pink Skies. This song held even more meaning after your service to Dewey Beach, where I had the privilege of learning so much about you and the ways you were remembered, such as being known as the Music Man. It seems fitting that it has been through music that I have connected the most regarding your loss and feeling the sadness of your absence. As I sat on the beach reflecting on you and observing the pink sky, the words, "Your funeral was beautiful. I bet God heard you coming," rang even more true. It is incredibly difficult in moments such as this to summarize one's life and the impact they had. It is also difficult to summarize the loss of you and how you impacted us. I will say this though, brother. You lived your life in an authentic manner and showed others it was okay for them to do the same. There are many who have and will continue to remember you with great fondness and appreciation. You are missed. You are loved. You are appreciated. You are admired. You are respected. You are not only a colleague to me, but also a friend, and more importantly, a brother in Christ. I am grateful for you and the time we had together, although it now feels short-lived. Till we meet again, much love, Dorothy.
Here.
I was told that after 4 minutes, there's a trap door. Jack, you're not here physically, but you're here spiritually. I don't think there's 1 square inch in this room that is not filled with your presence and your spirit. In fact, There's not 1 inch or square inch in the entire Magic Mountain that your presence is not felt. There are thousands of people, tens of thousands of people that you touched, and you live. That spirit is alive in their heart. Jack insisted on Sundays to have Jewish patients come up. He always found one to say a prayer, a Jewish prayer. And I will recite a prayer in Hebrew and lightly translate it. El mole rachamim, shoichein bamrimim, hamitz menuchonachoin al kanfei hashchina, v'ma'alas kedoshim v'tahirim v'zayar kiyamazim, es kol haneshamis, shemisu, bavur shanachnu mispalen ba'ad haskaras nishmasai, v'gan eden temenuchasai. Lochein balarachamim yasireyu v'seisek nofav loilamim yitzar b'tzar achayim es nishmasai adei shem hu nachalosai v'yenuach b'shalom al mishkevaysav v'noimar amen. Everyone please say amen. Out of the 25 years I get to serve Caron, 18 of those years I served together with Jack. And I just want to share a very short story. I know there's a minute and a half left over here. Bye-bye, Rabbi Lipsker. So for my 42nd birthday, 16 years ago, Jack teamed up with some of the others and made a surprise party for me. And on the way back, the car broke down. I'm going to make the story very short. And we had to get, and the police officer got involved, and they played a prank on me, Jack and the others. They said, Rabbi, can you give us your license? They look at my license and they said, sorry, it's suspended, you're arrested now. It was just, I'd look good behind bars. I probably know most of the people there. I just want to quickly say, just for another minute or so, that Jack lived his life by doing good things and by helping people and by helping souls. And it says in the Jewish scriptures that 1 hour of good deeds in this world cannot be compared to a lifetime in heaven. And the reason is because things in this world reverberate. They have continuation. It's up there, everything is static. Over here in this world, it's continuity. It continues to go. When you do something good, it's like a wave, it's like a light, it keeps to shine forever. And this is what Jack brought to this community and to beyond this community. And interestingly enough, at the end of Genesis, it refers to Jacob, which is also named Jack. When he passed away, it says Jacob did not die. And they said, what do you mean? He just died. He said, because his children continue the legacy. Every single one of those spiritual children that Jack inspired, this holy soil that I stand on and beyond, it will live forever. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Mark Skibby, and I have the great honor to serve as the chair of Caron's Board of Trustees. But my deepest connection to this place, however, is far more personal. I'm a grateful Caron alum, and there's little doubt that I'd be around today without the treatment I received while a patient here, and the connection I continue to have to this incredible place and the people who are part of it. And we gather today to celebrate the life and legacy of Reverend Jack Abel, a man who not only touched countless lives, but transformed them through his compassion, his wisdom, and authenticity. Jack carried forward the spiritual torch at Caron, stepping into the role of spiritual leader after Father Bill, who laid such a strong foundation of faith and hope. But Jack didn't try to replicate what came before him. Instead, he carved out his own space and brought his own gifts, leading with music, thoughtfulness, along with profound empathy and compassion that touched us all. And when you arrive at Caron, it's unlikely that you've been on some incredible winning streak, but you're often at your lowest point. And addiction is a devastating force, one that steals your self-esteem, your joy, and connection. And it leaves people estranged from their loved ones, from themselves, and even from hope. And despite the mounting consequences, the cycle continues until, for many, life feels unbearable. It's a place of profound pain, a place where many no longer believe they are worthy of love. And then somehow, some way, they arrive at a place called Caron. They come scarred, full of fear, carrying the unbearable burden of shame. But something begins to shift. That crushing weight starts to diminish, even just a little. At Caron, they encounter people who love them until they can love themselves, who accept them, imperfections and all, without judgment. And these people honor their pain and meet it with empathy, helping them realize they are not bad people who need to be good, but sick people who need to heal. And one of the key relationships patients have and form at Caron is with Reverend Jack. Jack had a rare and beautiful gift, the ability to meet people exactly where they were, without judgment, only love and acceptance. And whether a person came from a religious background or no faith tradition at all, Jack had a way of breaking through barriers. He didn't just accept people, he made them feel deeply valued, helping them reconnect with their sense of worth. One former patient shared with me that before meeting Jack, spirituality seemed and felt inaccessible to him. But through Jack's kindness and guidance, he began connecting to a higher power for the first time. And for him, religion became synonymous with the sanctuary of love and acceptance Jack had created in the Caron Chapel. And that space, safe, welcoming, and healing, was Jack's gift to so many. Jack's influence extended far beyond the patients, and within the Caron community, he championed vulnerability and authenticity. In times of uncertainty or challenge, his calm presence was grounding. And Jack encouraged all of us to care for and support one another, to prioritize connection, and to focus on what truly mattered. Jack was more than a spiritual leader. He was a listener, a guide, and a source of light for so many. He walked the same path he encouraged others to take, living out the principles of recovery and spirituality that Caron holds dear. Through his grace, his dignity, and unwavering belief in the power of love, Jack showed us what it truly means to care for others. And today we remember Jack. Let us honor him by carrying forward the lessons he taught us, to love without judgment, to lead with vulnerability, and to create spaces of acceptance wherever we go. Jack may no longer be with us in body, but his spirit remains in the countless lives he touched, the breakthroughs he inspired, and the love he so freely gave. Thank you, Jack, for showing us the way.
It's that time in the program where it says closing words. It says John Driscoll, President and CEO. And that's who I am, and that's what I'm here to do. Wow, what an afternoon we've had. What great remembrance of a wonderful individual, spiritual guide and spiritual leader for us. And as I was listening to all the different readings that people gave and the talks that they had, and I realized they wrote all their things down. And I didn't prepare any written remarks. How am I going to get through this? And as I was sitting there thinking about this, and we know Jack's presence is with us, a thought popped into my mind. Now, some people may call it a thought. I'm going to call it Jack's voice. And said, John, I've given my sermons in chapel probably over 1,000 times. And I went unscripted. And those of you that were at chapel know Jack's sermon was unscripted. And I thought, okay, Jack, you did that. I can work my way through this. Now, I don't think Jack had a 6-minute time limit like I did. Sometimes I'd watch the clock as I would sit in chapel and say, how's he gonna bring this one home? But he always did. So, you know, it's a little strange for me to be here, really being the newcomer. There's so many of you here that have known Jack and have been impacted by Jack for so much longer than I've been here. That in some ways I'm like, closing remarks, how am I going to do this? How am I gonna pay this individual that so many of you have this deep connection to, any sort of honor and justice? And so really I'm trying to just keep it simple to a couple of brief talking points. The first one is number one, thank you all for being here. Thank you for being a part of our remembrance of Reverend Jack. Thank you for being a part of the Caron family and coming back and being a part of community, as this was a tragedy that hit all of us so hard, as it was unexpected and much too soon for any of our preference. And so we appreciate you coming out, because that's, at the end of the day, what recovery is about. It's about a spiritual connection with others, something other than yourself. And whether you experience that here at Caron or whether you experience that here in chapel, coming together like this, especially at the darkest hours. I love Mark's comment about we didn't come into Caron on a winning streak, right? This wasn't like the greatest day ever of when I admitted. And, but here we are, connected through a spiritual purpose to let us know that we don't need to walk alone. Judy, thank you for coming. Thank you for bringing your family to be a part of us here. Alumni, singers, thank you for being here. Sarah, I believe you mentioned one of the things, we introduced yourself here and said, I'm not really anybody at Caron, I'm just an alum. And it's like, you're the most important person in the room. Every single one of you that are alum. All right, that's what it's about. Thank you. So just a couple of memories of Jack. So it's been a little more than 14 months since I took over the job as president and CEO. And I've known Doug Tiemann, our former CEO, for a number of years, and consider him a friend and a mentor. And some of the advice I got was, John, connect with the staff, connect with the patients, and at the end of the day, get to as many chapels as you can. And so my very first Sunday, I was here at chapel. I sat up in the back, just trying to be quiet to see what was happening. Actually, Sarah, I think you were singing that first service. So when you were doing your numbers, I was counting the math. I'm like, oh yeah, well, that's right. So I got to experience, and my first chapel, and you remember that you were singing on it, I was blown away by what happens here at Caron. Some of you know my backstory. I've been in the industry. I've been working with people recovering from addiction for over 30 years. And what I experienced that first Sunday, and what I've experienced in numerous chapel services since, was really unique and different. You don't find this type of connection. You don't find this type of an experience at other treatment centers. For me, it was a gauge as to what's happening here. I'm the newcomer coming into Caron. Let me try to understand and see what's happening. What is Caron all about? That one chapel service sums it up. If anybody ever wants to know, what does Caron do? What is Caron about? Seriously, come to a chapel service and you will see it all. I don't think I made it through a chapel service without crying at least once. Either a message or a song, or when somebody came up and got their medallion. And it didn't matter if it was the 30-day chip, if it was the 90-day, or if it was the 6-year or 12-year or 50th year. This is where recovery is embodied. Sometimes we talk about it, it's a little bit intangible, but in chapel, under Reverend Jack, it was real. It was right here among us. You could touch it and taste it. And it was amazing for me to see brand new people, day 3, day 4, sometimes even on that Librium shuffle where it's like, I'm not really sure where we are, what exactly is happening here. But they stayed, they participated. And what was amazing to me was to see them after that first week while they sat in the audience. The second week, they were up at a microphone. The third week, they were up at a microphone. And just as so many of our alumni shared, it brought a peace back to them. And it wasn't about religion. And that was the greatest thing about Reverend Jack. It wasn't about religion. It was about spirituality. We take all comers, you know? And don't worry about what you used to think it was. Even Jack would share his story of being an atheist, of not believing, and then look at the full circle. You know, one of the big things that we've changed some of our messaging at Caron about is Caron transformational care. Because what we do is we help people transform their lives. And you don't have to look any farther than Reverend Jack, who was addicted to drugs and alcohol, who is an atheist, come completely full circle in that transformation of connectedness and love and spirituality and meeting people where they were at. It is such a beautiful thing. And it's something that Dick and Catherine Caron started with you. Caron was all about caring in the beginning. We've got a couple of his children here in the audience. Dick and Catherine Caron's kids are here, and Linda Caron shares a story, and if you have a chance to stop by the Heritage Center, if you haven't been in there a while, please go in there. But she's actually going to be talking on campus here next week. She was in Florida talking before. And what we had was Reverend Jack embody that caring piece, where Linda shares the story of her mom and dad really opening their doors to anybody that was suffering from this disease. And Rabbi, you talked the story about you going to jail, and it's okay, I know a lot of people, I probably know everybody there. Well, that was Dick and Catherine too. Dick would say the exact same words. He said, yeah, that's where we go. Because as Mark said, we didn't come into Caron on a winning streak. And so what Jack has meant to this community, what that Jack has meant to individuals here, will never be lost. Will never be forgotten. And as some of the songs talk about, will go on. Because at the end of the day, the spirituality is here in our heart. And as the president and CEO of Caron Treatment Centers, spirituality is the core of our program. Working a 12-step program, connecting with others, is the core of what we do. And although we advance and evolve the course of treatment, we never walk away from the spirituality here. Now, I used to talk to Jack. Jack was one of the first employees I met with when I came to Caron in the first couple of days. And then I said I would be at his chapel service on day 4 when I was here. Because I knew he had the heartbeat of the organization. And as I brought in change, and I brought in new things to do, I knew I was going to need the spiritual leader and the guide to be a confidant, to be on my side, to make sure I had a pathway. So Jack and I met every single month and had a conversation. When there were things that were happening at Caron that were going to happen, Jack and I would have a conversation about it beforehand to say, help me understand how I need to talk about this. And when the campus experienced a tragedy, after I got a phone call saying, listen, we've had a horrific event on campus, this is what we're doing, and I hang up the phone as the administrator, my first phone call was not to other leaders. My first phone call was to Reverend Jack to say, Jack, we've had a tragedy, and we're going to have to deal with this as staff, as our patients, and as our alumni, and I need your help. So Jack and I, even though I've only known him for 14 months, and I knew him a little bit before because he would do events at the National Association of Treatment Providers annual conference, and there was a group of spiritual care sort of Jacks around the area. Each treatment center would sort of get together and bring them together, and Jack he had brethren and sisterin as part of that. And so I knew Jack for a little bit, but not that great. But when I think about what he has meant to this organization, when I think about Father Bill's spirituality, but then really Jack finding his own. People talk about standing on the shoulders, but there was a piece here where Jack moved beyond the shoulders and really made this his own as well. And that's important for us to remember. And I know that as CEO, we're going to find a way to continue to remember those amazing accomplishments. And we too will move on. We don't yet know how we're not going to have another Reverend Jack. We're going to have somebody else. But our commitment will be here to spirituality. As I think here in my closing remarks, the only thing that comes to me is gratitude. Gratitude for having to have the experience of knowing Jack, of talking with Jack, of getting wisdom from Jack. And gratitude for what he has done for this organization and all the people that are here and all the people that weren't able to be here today. And so I really want to say thank you. We do have a couple of one more reading and then a closing number, because that's the way we do it in chapel too. And I just really appreciate all of you being here, sharing together, and coming to remember such a great individual. So thank you.
We will be ending our service with our Pledge of Responsibility and a piece of music. As we end, please join us for light refreshments in the McGlynn Dining Hall. You can, when you exit this building, you will exit to the right-hand side and just follow the pathway down, and that'll lead you to the dining hall. As a healthcare facility, patient safety and confidentiality are important to us, so please refrain from taking any photos on campus. On the way to the McGlynn Dining Hall, or at any time up to 5 p.m., please consider going to our meditation room, which is in the Heritage Center in Hewitt Hall, where you can find some peace in that space, as our patients do, and maybe even pray on the kneelers that belong to Reverend Jack. While we will only be going in the McGlynn Dining Hall until 5 p.m., we encourage you to continue fellowship and community in our local area. We've provided information on restaurant options in the vestibule of the McGlynn Dining Hall. And now at this time, I would like to invite you, as we do in chapel, to repeat the Pledge of Responsibility. As I said, this is spoken and repeated every chapel service, and this idea of responsibility and service is something that Jack sought to live by. And so we keep this pledge here, and we pay it forward as we honor and remember him. So for those who wish to offer themselves as servants in the journey of recovery, we include here the Pledge of Responsibility, adapted from a well-known reading in the 12-step tradition. Please repeat even after me, one phrase at a time. I am responsible. When anyone, anywhere reaches out for help, I want the hand of our recovery programs always to be there. And for that, I am responsible.